I wish I could see this movie with kids because that would
just go out and grab you some.
Right, exactly. Just go out there somewhere. There's got hey kid, come here.
Welcome to Sincast, presented by Cinemasins.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Sincast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Howdy.
And from Music Video Sins, Barrett Scher.
Hello, everyone.
And today we have a special guest in our studio.
Yeah.
It is Scott Christian Sava.
Yay!
Who has made a movie called Animal Crackers, an animated film that has a long roster of well-known voice talent.
Yes, amazing.
Amazing voice talent. In fact, some of the most distinctive voice talent that you can come across.
Yeah.
You made this about 2 years ago?
Well, it started, production started 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
Yeah, 2014.
Yeah.
And it's been a heck of a ride ever
yes.
since.
And you've been looking for distribution. That's the big issue.
Yeah, you know, you think, hey, I'm going to make a $100 million movie for $20 million. I should have no problem getting distribution. Let's just focus on the making of the movie. And so for a couple of years, we were blissfully tooling along. Everything was looking good. We finished the movie, and then bam, we just hit I keep saying we hit every cactus on the way down this hill. I mean, we've hit every charlatan and ne'er-do-well that we could find in Hollywood.
Before we get into all the issues with it, could you just tell us about how this movie came to be in the first place?
Yeah. We got about 3 hours, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We got all the time in the world.
So it started off as a book I wrote for my boys. I've written about a dozen of them. I have twin boys. This particular one came around when they were 7. We were in the backyard eating animal crackers, and we were just playing around. Like, if you eat a lion animal cracker, you turn into a lion and whatnot. And I thought, let me write this down. And so I wrote it down and eventually turned it into a book. And, the rest was kind of just tucked off to the side. And we were originally trying to get a movie made based on one of my other books called Extraterrestrials. It was aliens who come to Earth and they land in this kid's treehouse. And for some reason, at the time that we were doing it and we had the script, there was a ton of alien animated movies like in the works or coming out. So someone had asked me to try one of the others, and I wrote the script for Animal Crackers. And not to fly by all of the hard work that went into finding the money, because it took about 1.5 years to do it, and there's a whole story behind that. But we got the money at the beginning of 2014, and we started up our own animation studio and started casting, and then just everything steamrolled. It was insane.
Yeah. Wow. And so after you got the money and everything, what then? What do you have to do after that?
Oh God. Yeah, I can go into all the details.
Yeah. I figure you just snap your fingers and a movie happens.
Yeah.
Well, there's a key on the thing, make movie button. And,
I understand. We're sort of, this podcast has had a few people who are in the industry. But I think what our listeners like to hear about is the process of a lot of this stuff, even though it may be mundane or it might be, just kind of a boring thing for you. I think it is kind of interesting to see how a movie starts from it's written, it gets money, and then what next and all that.
Yeah.
So you can take us through that, man.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's to the point to where everybody on the team says that we have to make a movie on the making of the movie. They said it's actually going to be much more interesting than the movie itself because we've been through everything. It started off with Harvey Weinstein, and there was a local producer that had done a couple movies out here who said that he had connection to Harvey, and despite everything I had heard, I thought, well, at least let me try. So we met with Harvey Weinstein, and he read over the script, really loved it, and Now, whether he loved it or not, I'm not sure, because he had someone do a book report. It's called coverage. So they said, we did the coverage on your script was great. I said, what's coverage? I had to look it up. But it's a book report, and there's grades and everything like that. And I got all A's and B's, which I was really happy because I didn't get that in school.
Oh, nice.
And he made us an offer. Hey, I'll take your movie. And it was literally, hey, I'll take your movie.
Yeah,
it wasn't, hey, you're going to make some. It was, no, I'll take everything. And so we're like, I don't think so. And so we started to look around, and it was when you live in Franklin, Tennessee, and you're not in the movie business, and you're saying, I need to raise $20 million. It's kind of daunting. And so you just start asking people. You ask your mailman, you're asking the person at Publix, hey, do you know of anybody who might have $20 million? And so, and as crazy as it is. So, a friend of mine, his name is Harry Mock. He was Sylvester Stallone's stunt double in Rambo.
Wow.
And I'd met him in San Jose, California, 26 years ago, and we've remained friends. He says, I'm going to get you that money. And he went out and he went to all of the shows. He did all this on his own dime. And in 2013, he met a guy named Michael Favell. I'm not going to go through all of the names, but he was a sales agent in Australia. He met him at a party at the American film market. And Michael knew a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy. Who knew two guys, who knew a gal, who knew a guy, who knew a guy, who knew a gal, who worked for a guy, who knew a gal in China, who said, yeah, I've got $13 million. I'll put it up.
That's crazy.
Good God.
Now, if you look on the IMDb and you see that we have 40 producers, every single person got a credit. So everybody is like, I'll introduce you to this person, but I got to get an associate producer. I'll introduce you, but I got to get a producer credit. And so, but I said, sure. I was giving away producer credits like candy on Halloween. I was just, here you go, here you go, here you go. But we got the money. And so that money came in around April, and we started looking for cast. And there were specific people that when I was writing it, I was saying, okay, like I was writing Brock in Patrick Warburton's voice. I was just, you just heard it, and I was like, okay, I got to get Patrick Warburton. Ian McKellen was another one. I just had that Gandalf kind of Magneto voice. And my casting agent, who was a good friend of mine, his name is Jamie Thomason, and his partner, Curtis Kohler, they said, okay, because the whole thing for, we'll say, a few years was, well, Scott, if you get us the money, we can get you a cast, And so everybody was being called on, because the animation studio, my friend Jaime Maestro in Valencia, we had done a lot of animation together. We kept saying, we could totally make a movie. We could totally make a movie. Now we got the money. Now everybody's going to have to put
you actually got to make the movie.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. And for the first, from April to about September, it was nothing. We were getting offers, hey, Ben Affleck would like to do it. He and Jennifer Garner. Okay, that'd be kind of cool. And then that kind of fell away. And then, we almost had the entire cast of the Avengers. We had, we had Chris Evans. We had Scarlett Johansson. We had, but we also had Batman. We had, but like everybody was, was kind of, making offers, and either it was way out of our budget, or, something happened with a conflict of interest or something like that. So it was week after week, you're going, hey, this is happening. We need, because the way it happens is that you get a call from your agent saying, hey, Scarlett Johansson wants to play Zoe. Great. That's fantastic. What do we need to do? We need to put an official offer in writing saying that we're going to pay her this much money. Fantastic. So you do it. And you wait. And you wait. And you wait. And then you find out she hasn't read the script yet. That was her agent said that she'd be interested. Okay. And you're waiting. And you're waiting. And you're waiting. And you're going, okay, we're supposed to start production soon. What's going on? So then you put a time limit on it. And you say, okay, it was a couple people, and you say, I've got to have this by this time because we've got to start production. And if they just can't get to it, then they just pass. They've got to kind of walk
it's got to
away.
be so frustrating though, just waiting and
Yeah. It is.
You got to
is,
temper
'cause
your expectations and all that.
It's a roller coaster because every week, you're getting told the biggest stars, and it's just like, hey, this person's, interested, but it's coming through so many middle people that it's not like you're sitting down, and it's not like usually they're not reading the script. It's just a matter of economics. How much are you paying? How much time is it going to be? What's my schedule look like? And then if it gets past all of that stuff, maybe they might read the script and then they'll say yes. So when we heard that Stallone and Krasinski and actually I think the first wave was Stallone, DeVito, and McKellen. And
Wow.
And we were just like,
it's a murderer's row right there.
yeah, we were like, holy crap, and but it was it was amazing. And then my first meeting was in New York with Harvey Fierstein and Gilbert Gottfried. And so I flew out to New York, and I was just so nervous, like I said, thank God for Xanax, because I'm so nervous. And then Harvey Fierstein just bursts in like a tornado. I mean, he's just like, he's on stage, his arms are waving and he's cursing and he's this and that or whatever. And he's just like, and like little tears are coming in. Like, it's just like I imagined. He's just this, and he's just, hilarious and just funny. And he comes in, and now mind you, I wrote the script and I'm jumping back. My apologies, and if you need to, but
no.
So, back when Harvey Weinstein had come on board and said, hey, I'll do this, one of his caveats was, but I can't sell it with just you. You're nobody. I need somebody. I need some big names. So I called my friend Tony Bancroft, who directed Mulan, and I said, hey, could you come on board? And he was like, yeah, sure. And then I called Dean Lorey, who wrote Arrested Development.
Yeah.
Hey, can you come on? So now I had street cred.
Yeah.
And so they were amazing. Flash forward back to Harvey Fierstein. So I'm for the first time listening to somebody read from a script that I wrote with Dean Lorey. And he sits down before he says anything, and he says, I've got some ideas for how my character is. So he's actually been reading the script. He's actually like thinking of his character and the type of voice and the type of accent and everything like that. And I was just I was just blown away. So he gets in, and I was told to give notes. I've got the headset and everything, and so he's in a soundproof room and he's doing his thing, and I was told to just whenever I need to in between say, hey, could you try this, or could you do a little bit of that? This is what I was thinking. And so one of the times I said, hey, I'm just, I was wondering if you could do this. And he says in his typical value, he goes, it's okay, sweetie. He goes, I've done this before, And I said, but I haven't. This is my first time. And he went, oh, and he comes out and he gives me this hug. I'm so sorry,
That's a perfect way to disarm that situation.
Yeah. This is my first time. But he was really, really sweet. So funny. And then Gilbert Gottfried walked in.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't know that apparently Gilbert Gottfried likes to go on the Howard Stern show and make impressions of Harvey Fierstein.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. So I was like thinking they were going to come to blows or something like that, because they kind of like greeted each other coolly, And then they said, take a picture of us. We're going to post it on Facebook. I was like, oh, okay. So, yeah. And then Gilbert came in, and he's the shy, quiet person. He's just like, and he's always forgetting his glasses. So everybody's always got to bring extra reading glasses and whatnot. And he's just really quiet. And then he gets in the room, and then he just explodes into this voice,
my God.
And so it was it was really funny, and I was just really shocked. And then I think it was probably a few weeks later, I was supposed to go and work with, it was originally going to be Kaylee Cuoco.
Oh, okay.
From the Big Bang Theory was going to play Zoe with John Krasinski. And so I had, first of all, never seen The Office. So, so I was going on Jamie's say so that John was going to be really good for this.
Yeah.
And so I hadn't actually watched The Big Bang Theory either. So this was my, these are going to be your main character. Trust me on this. Okay. And I got out to Los Angeles, really excited, go to the studio. John's there. Kaylee's not. And John's just literally the sweetest guy, just hanging out, talking, telling me how much he loved the script, telling me just whatever you needed him to do, he was doing it. He was just gave you 120%. And he was directing a movie at the time. And so he was, just kind of preoccupied with editing and whatnot, but we were talking a little bit about that. But he spent a good half an hour to an hour just chit-chatting and talking about film, And so he did his session. We found out there was, problem with Kaylee, the lawyers or this or that or whatever. Okay, I'm coming back in 2 weeks. We'll do another session with the two of them. Come back in 2 weeks. She wasn't there again.
Oh.
And so long story short was she couldn't make it. So the third time I go out there and she's not there, and I'm really upset because that was actually the day before they announced, because it takes a while for the announcement to come out, that Kaylee Cuoco was starring. And we found out that now she's not. And so John, who hadn't caught up on any of that, just chit-chatting, drinking a coffee, and we're hanging out. And and I'm kind of preoccupied thinking, we just lost Zoe. I don't know what to do. And he's like, hey, he goes, I just want to say, he goes, my wife was reading your script and just loves it. And I was like, thank you. I didn't know who he was married to. I just said, can you just please tell her thank you, And so he...
Does she do any acting?
So, fortunately, Jamie, our casting director, knew, because that's his job. And he kind of just does that thing where you kind of stick a foot in and then slide your whole body in between.
Kind of like how Brock does in the movie.
Yeah, he just kind of slides and he goes, well, do you think she might be, And so he kind of catches her up and literally John just goes, hold on, takes out his iPhone, goes, hey, babe, you want to be in the movie? And then we wait, 3, 2, 1. Sure. And then he holds up the phone and he goes, yeah, she's in. And I'm like, who's in? As Emily Blunt. Really? You're married to Emily Blunt? He goes, yeah, I get that a lot. So
what's crazy about that story is that not only you just showed the polar opposites of how you have to know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. And then it can literally be a text message in 12 seconds. Yeah. And then you've got one of the biggest stars in the world.
Exactly. So, yeah. And so we were just, it was like, wow. And then they came in the next session. So John had done 3 sessions on his own. So he had, done a lot of the whenever he's not around Zoe. And now you guys had a chance to see the movie?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. So the sequence where Owen and Zoe, where Owen and Zoe are coming back from the funeral, and this was my script. They're driving back from the funeral. Their daughter Mackenzie says, "I'm hungry," and Zoe says, "Oh, there's a fruit stand." Mm-hmm. That's my script. Mm-hmm. Now, John and Emily get in, and they're in the room together, and So Jamie does the voice of over the headphones, I'm hungry, Mom. And John goes, oh, she's hungry. Well, do we have anything? And Emily starts going, oh yeah, I think I have something in the glove box. Where? No, under the suit, under the sunglasses. No, look over here. I don't see anything. And they're arguing.
Doing typical marital banter.
Exactly.
That's great.
And then she goes, oh, look, there's a fruit stand. And then they start singing. We
Wow.
like to eat
it's the apples and bananas.
Boom, boom, boom. And I'm looking at my script, which has 2 lines in it. And I'm looking up, and they're just going off, and they're laughing, and they're just ad-libbing. And after about half an hour of this, I went, holy crap. Let's do what you guys did. Let's just scrap everything. And from that point on, I realized that A, I'm a horrible writer, but B, you've got to let the actors play. Mm. And I know on a typical animated film, because I've worked on a lot of animated films, because I'm usually a cog in the wheel, but the director and the sound the storyboard artists will do scratch track, and which is how you get like an Edna Mode and whatnot.
Right,
It's like so what happens is by the time the actors come in, every nuance has already been worked out to where you're telling, we'll say a Ben Affleck, you're telling him, no, I want you to kind of pause here and then finish the rest of the sentence, because you're leaving it because you've worked all that out. You've worked from the story, you've got all the storyboards and everything. How exciting is that not for the actors? No. Do it like our storyboard guy did it. Act like him. He's doing it right. Do it more like him. And that's how they're used to doing voiceover is that. Now, the exception would be Robin Williams in like Aladdin or something like that, where you just probably couldn't contain him and you just let him go.
And that seems like that's the secret to some success, is having the two actors in the same room, because the kid who played Aladdin, the voice actor was in the room with Robin Williams and was able to play off of that. So that has to be some sort of magic.
Seeing John and Emily together, the mechanical part of it, the technical part is that you edit the dialogue, because you like this take of how they say, "Oh no," rather than this one, because you really can fine tune it. But if they're talking over each other in the same room, you're hearing in this microphone, you're hearing on John's microphone, Emily, and it makes it harder. So we tried to put up a wall, which made them sad because they couldn't see. I would say, and I think the movie Rango, I remember seeing like a making of where they had all of the actors in the room, kind of playing it out, and they had like, I think, cameras on them or whatever. And I think what we did after John and Emily's session was, I said, let's scrap everything, all of the storyboards and everything, and let's make the whole movie in a radio play. Let's just listen to the movie, and if it's funny without visuals, then it's going to be funny with the visuals. It'll be funnier. Wow. And so we did the whole movie. We edited it as a radio play, and it was till we got it to where it was just right. That's great. Then we handed it over to Spain and said, animate it. Now it's done. It's edited. Animate the pic, however you guys want to. And I just think it was a better film for it. And we had, I could keep going on all of the actors and because there's a lot of actors I got to meet. But the thing is that I think that was the most pivotal part of the movie was John and Emily in the movie.
Yeah, you can tell the interplay with all the characters, even with Brinkley and with Owen in between there, and then Brinkley with Brock and everybody, and Wallace Shawn's character. Like everybody just seems like, like you said, like an audio, like a radio play.
It does.
Where they're playing off of each other rather than, directly to the track or whatever.
One of the things when we were editing the audio play was I said more Gilmore Girls.
I
want them to be overlapping each other a lot because my wife and I are Italian, so we're always yelling over each other too. So it's just it felt more natural to do that. And we speaking of Brock, we would show the film like during the production. We would have Lionsgate and Sony and Warner Brothers. Hey, we want to see the film, so we'd show them where we are with the storyboards and whatnot. And everything kept coming back. We need to see more Patrick Warburton. He's just too funny. And so we started adding whole new sequences just for that, and but one of the things that has been, I think, the hardest, I'm a first-time director, and first of all, everybody knows how to make a movie. Everybody's telling you, you got to do this, you got to do that. And one of the things has been that I really wanted to give everybody an arc, and that's really hard. Right. I've got a dozen people, but I wanted to make sure that even the smaller characters, like Binkley, had her own arc. Even Wallace Shawn, inconceivable. He had his arc. So everybody, I wanted to focus. So give everybody something. So that I just didn't want characters just kind of pop in, and you're like, who's that person, and you don't see them again. All of them felt like my children, and then meeting the actors, you're like, I want to make sure I don't, I got to meet this person, Sylvester Stallone. Yeah. I got to meet Sly. You
really got like almost an I Am Groot type of performance out of Sylvester Stallone.
I did. And the thing is, we wrote that before the first
I
movie
guess so,
came out,
right, yeah.
because it was, in 2014.
Uh-huh.
And actually what had come to mind was one of the, because we did a comedy punch-up, because Bullet Man was just talking normally. And so we brought in, Dean brought in a group of comedy writers, and we all sat around for a day, and we just kind of just came up with ideas to see what can make it funnier. And one of the person just kept going, Matt Damon.
Oh,
and
from Team America.
Yeah, from Team America. And they were like, what if you just did that, And I'm pretty sure at that time we already had Stallone cast, and I was like, oh my God, he's gonna hate this. Like we just got rid of all of his lines, and all he says is Bullet Man. But the thing is that Bullet Man is based on a G.I. Joe toy I have. I mean, I still got it. It's if you look up Bullet Man G.I. Joe, there's a 12-inch doll. He's got a bullet on his head, bullet helmet, and he had like metal arms, and he flew. And that was stolen from an old comic book. It was like not licensed correctly. And but the point is that like I grew up with this toy, and so I was like, I don't want to make him stupid or anything like that. And then of course, it's Stallone. I wanted to I wanted him to say more than just one word. But the more we were saying it in the room, the funnier it got. And it was like, and then the thing is so, the day came when Stallone was coming in, and I was warned he's going to have an entourage. I was going to warn he's going to be aloof and everything. And I'm pacing the room. And it's me and Jamie Thomason, our casting director. And in comes Stallone with a cup of coffee, and that was it.
Oh, really?
And so, hey, how you doing? Call me Sly, really, really nice. And I said, do you have time for me to just ask you some questions? He's like, sure. Sat down, and we spoke for 45 minutes. And he told me, because I told him what I'd gone through to get the movie made, and I told him what happened with, the studios to date and what people have, done. And he said, look, he says, I was sleeping in my car. He says, I had to sell my dog. He says, and he says they had, they wanted James Caan or De Niro or Robert Redford to play Rocky. And he's like, no. He's like, I'm going to play it. I'm going to stick to my guns. And he had about a $3 million budget, he said. And he says, he goes, I stuck to my guns and I was broke. I'm living in my car and they're offering me $200,000 to walk away, which would have set me up. He's like, but I knew I wasn't going to get another chance like this. I wasn't going to get a chance to make another movie like this. This is my only chance. And so he stuck to his guns. And after, I don't know if it was months or years, they finally relented. And he says, instead of the $3 million budget, they gave me $876,000. And they said, fine, go make your movie. Oh. And he said, do you know who was cast as Adrian? Bette Midler.
Oh, really?
Bette Midler was supposed to play. Yeah. And she goes, what? I'm playing against, I thought I was going to be against, Robert Redford and James Caan. This guy's a nobody. And she left.
Oh my God.
And they got Talia Shire, which is just fantastic. And then, I forget who the heavyweight champion at the time, this was 1970 something, was supposed to play Apollo Creed.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, I get a phone call one day from the guy. He's like, hey, I'm not going to be able to make your movie. He's like, what? We're shooting in 2 weeks. He's like, yeah, I got offered a Battle of the Network Stars. I'm going to be canoeing with Lou Ferrigno for $10,000.
Oh, my God.
I want to go canoeing with Lou Ferrigno. And he's like, you're kidding me. And so they had to go and do these casting. And so here's 69-year-old Sylvester Stallone, and he's shadowboxing in the room. This is a room about as big as the one we're in right now. And he's shadowboxing. He goes, so I'm, we got this guy, Carl Weathers, and he was shadowboxing. We're, doing these, and he looks pretty good. He was a football player. I think he was, instead of a boxer, but he looked pretty good and whatnot. And so the producer says, hey, let's take off the gear and let's go through some lines. So they take off the gear, they're running through some lines, and, after a few lines, Carl Weathers says, this would go a lot better if I could be working with the actual actor instead of the sparring partner.
Oh, my God.
and the producer said, no, he is going to be the actor.
wow. Good God.
And that just cemented his attitude for them. They were like, yeah, he's the guy, you know, and he was perfect, you know. But before we went out and we, you know, did the studio session, he sat me down, he looked me in the eyes, and he said, do not let the studios take this from you. He goes, you made this. You created this out of nothing. You sweat for it. You bled for it. He goes, this is your project. Don't let them take it away from you. And then that was it. And I was like, oh, crap. You know, and that stuck with me
You
since.
got the Rocky pregame speech.
I did.
Seriously. You got a locker room pep talk from Rocky.
I did. I mean, and, you know, and I asked him, you know, one of the most inspirational speeches was from, was it Rocky 5? The one where he's talking to his son. He's like, life doesn't stop. It's just going to keep knocking you down. It's just a matter of how often you can keep getting, you get back up. And I asked him about that. I said, did you read that somewhere? He's like, no, I just made that up.
Nice.
I was just like, I know a bunch of friends who we keep quoting that to each other to keep each other going. But yeah, he gave me the inspirational speech. And then he got out to say Bullet Man for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I've never seen someone so giddy and so, I mean, he loves doing it. He was either the best actor ever because, you know, if he was faking it, I couldn't tell. He was having such a good, I mean, you saw some of the video.
He was doing fist bumps.
He was doing fist bumps. He was having a blast. And he took pictures with me, and he signed I did a painting of him and Clubber Lang, you know.
Nice.
So he did
Nice.
He signed it for me. But he was the nicest guy. No entourage, no ego, no anything. Just the nicest guy. And his speech just killed me. I mean, it was, and it's probably why I'm still having problems with the distribution is because I'm going, no, you're trying to steal it from me. No, Rocky said I shouldn't trust you, you know?
Yeah.
So I think he's partially to blame for what we're going through.
It's just insane how much it takes to make a movie. I always think it's a miracle when a movie is actually good because you look at some of the things that in a trivia, you know, you look at a trivia on the IMDb or something and they say this person was cast and you sit there and you think, I can't even think of this movie with that person in it. I mean, obviously if they had gone on to do it, maybe it would have just have been as good or better. Who knows? But I think about stuff like this. You know, this is going all the way back and I don't mean to rehash everything that you've just said or anything, but I think it's curious to me that Harvey Weinstein said, you don't have a name. We need a name for the directing team on this. I don't know how unless he's saying I can put Mulan on my trailers and everything like that, how you sell with just Tony Bancroft's name either.
You know, I think it helps in the agencies. It helped us get the cast. It helps us with that. And, you know, Tony's an amazing, I mean, he was a lead animator on The Lion King and Beauty and the Beast and, you know, and Aladdin. I mean, but when you're talking to CAA and William Morris and UTA, the first thing they say is, who's directing it?
Okay.
Scott Zava, who? You know, and they're you know, but if you say Tony Bancroft, who did, you know, and you know, I mean, even right now at the Shanghai Film Festival, Tony is walking down red carpets and it's up for a best animated picture and they're treating him like royalty. He's the guy who did Mulan, you know, and so they wouldn't throw down a red carpet for me, and not that I would want one, but you know, the thing is that they 100%. They need to sell it on something, just like, you know, we needed Emily Blunt and John Krasinski and Sylvester Stallone. I mean, if I could go back to one of the things we did with Harvey was he needed, on top of those names, he needed to see what the movie was going to look like. And so me and my team in Spain had to do an animated short. We had to do a test. And to do that, we wound up needing some voice actors. Now, Jamie was really good friends with James Arnold Taylor, who was the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi on Clone Wars, and Tara Strong, who was everything from Raven from Teen Titans to Batgirl.
It says
to
500 credits.
Bubbles.
On the
Yeah. I mean, she does everybody. Jeez. So what had happened is, you know, it's say 2013, and we have no money. And we were asking everybody for favors, and Jamie asked for a favor from James and Tara, and they said sure. And they lended their voices. They were Owen and Zoe in the short. And then James Arnold Taylor's daughter, Lydia, was Mackenzie.
Oh.
And so what had happened is then we got the money, and in a large part because of that short.
Mm-hmm.
And I met with James, and I had met with James and Tara, and I said, you guys are going to be in the movie, because what happens to voice actors 100% of the time is they come in, they do the work, like for Harvey Weinstein's movie Hoodwinked.
Yeah.
Oh,
Tara was Red Riding Hood.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
did the entire movie. And then Harvey Weinstein came in and said, no. We've got to get, some names in here. And then she just, off
Ended
and
up
on.
being like Anne Hathaway.
Anne Hathaway.
Yeah.
And
we were literally just talking about this with celebrity voiceovers for commercials recently. So yeah, it's crazy.
It's sad because the voice actors, the professional voice actors, are amazing. I mean, you heard Buffalo Bob. That's who, So, and I'm we've got to get James Arnold Taylor to come and do this, but so it's time to work with James to do Bob, and he's like, what kind of voice are you thinking of? When you go to James or you go to Tara, it's almost like a blank slate. Tell us what you want, and we'll do that voice. You go to Ian McKellen, you get Ian McKellen. Right? Gilbert Gottfried, you get Gilbert Gottfried.
Right.
But when you go to James Arnold Taylor, and so I said, I was thinking a little bit of James, whatever from It's a Wonderful Life.
James Stewart.
James Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking a little James Stewart, and boom, he's speaking like James Stewart. And then I was like, but with a little bit of, a little bit older James Stewart. So then his voice starts getting gravelly. And then with a little bit of, and I forget, I started to, mention like different Westerns, different this and that. And he starts to input those aspects till suddenly we're like there. I think it was.
Oh my God, I would play around with that.
I was
going
to
to
say, I want that toy.
It was so amazing. And he can do, he can go from, have you ever seen his show, his one-man show?
No. I don't think so.
Please look it up. It's on YouTube.
Okay.
It's James Arnold Taylor talking to myself.
Huh.
And we saw it live at Disney World during one of the Star Wars weekends. And he will go from Fred Flintstone to Doc Emmett Brown to to Christopher Walken to whatever, and he can blend all of those voices. It's magic. It's
great.
literally magic. And so when the sad thing about animation is there's still that Hollywood factor that still needs those quote unquote big names to sell it. Mm-hmm. It's and I think it's common knowledge that voice actors who are just amazing, they keep getting thrown to the back. And so if I ever make any more movies, I'm going to be writing parts for them because they've become good friends of mine. When someone, especially someone in Hollywood, because this doesn't happen often, donates their time and their talent to help someone they've never met get their dream to come true. I mean, that's rare. Those are good people, and you stick with them. And so, I have nothing but the greatest respect for James and Tara. And James's daughter, Lydia, wound up being just a monster. I mean, she's just amazing.
Yeah.
She's just amazing. So she stole the show with Mackenzie.
You can just only imagine how long he's been doing voices to her.
Yeah.
Like it's time to go to bed and probably tell stories in those voices and everything. It's I almost envy that.
I want him as my dad.
Exactly. You did end up hitting a jackpot as far as name actors on this, because a lot of these actors are arguably known for their voice more than anything. Yeah. Wallace Shawn, Gilbert Gottfried, Danny DeVito, Ian McKellen, maybe less so, but still his voice is so commanding.
Oh yeah, especially when you get a chance to hear him say "you fool."
Yeah.
And I can't believe he read that too. I actually wrote in the script, "Now fly, you fool,"
Oh,
and he
yeah.
read it. And he had no problem with it. I was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah."
But I've never understood that. Like, I feel like a movie like The Incredibles 2 and just The Incredibles 2, but Craig T. Nelson and Holly Hunter, and these are well-known names for sure, but they're not. I don't think they actually sell the movie.
Well, that's the thing that Pixar's doing well is they're not going after the A-list. DreamWorks would usually do that. DreamWorks
Oh,
would
my God,
try to get
yes.
the biggest names, and they pay them a lot of money. But Pixar's like, no, story comes first, and we'll get the voices there. Now, granted, Tom Hanks and and whatnot, but
But somebody like Patton Oswalt,
Exactly.
relatively out of nowhere, is perfect for Ratatouille.
So now you've gotten your voice talent. They're doing their thing. If you've got any other stories from, I'm sure you do, because there's so many here.
Music.
Yes, let's go talk about the
Music
music.
has been fantastic.
Uh-huh.
First, quickly, I'll run through my two experiences finding a composer. I'm not a cinema guy, so it's like I long story short is our music supervisor is Andy Ross. He had just finished the movie Whiplash. And so he was a friend of a friend, and so I got introduced, and he read the script, loved the script, he's in. I was like, fantastic.
Yeah.
So the first thing he said was, what kind of music? Send me some of the music you like. So I sent him a bunch of songs, and he called me. Is there anything from this century that you like? And I was like, well, I got really, eclectic taste. Well, eclectic is a nice way of saying you don't have good taste, but he said, well, let's focus on the composition. Who would you like for score? Whoever you think, and. He says, when are you coming out next? And I said, in a couple weeks. He goes, okay, I got a meeting with you and Mark Mothersbaugh.
Jeez.
I said,
That's
Steve-O? He's like, yeah. I was like, cool. So I went out, met with him. Really sweet guy. Loved the thing, loved the movie. He watched the movie where we were at the time, and we really wanted to go with a Bugs Bunny kind of sound. Just, like, dun, 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 where the music is really, and, we left on good terms. Everything sounded great. And then he called me up and he says, I've got a couple more submissions. And I was like, I don't know how we're going to beat Mark Mothersbaugh, but okay, And he sent me a video from some guy named Bear McCreary. And Bear literally made a music video. It's him in the studio, doing orchestra of a song that he wrote for my movie with my, the visuals, the storyboards that we had at the time or whatever. And I was just blown away. And I was like, holy crap, I got to meet this guy. And we just hit it off. And, and I still would love to work with Mark Mothersbaugh.
Yeah, sure.
But Bear was just, you just kind of know.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like love at first sight kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he's just amazing. And, he, at that time, one of my sons, Logan, started to really get into, we were watching a lot of Lord of the Rings, we were watching Star Wars, and he was downloading the soundtrack. So he was really kind of getting into that. And I told Bear that, my son Logan would really love to see him record the sessions. And when we be doing it, well, the only time that Bear was able to do it was in the middle of school, and we couldn't fly out to Los Angeles. This is how cool Bear is. Bear rescheduled and packed up his whole team, and he filmed. He did the recording session here in Nashville.
Wow.
So that way my son could come after school and watch. And he showed him how to read music. He showed him, all of this. And afterwards we went out to dinner, and he was, saying, well, what kind of music do you like? Well, I like, this, I've been listening to the Pacific Rim album. Oh, that was done by this guy. I know him. You know that guy? Yeah, he's really nice. And what about this? And he just for hours and even to this day, he will send him. There was a movie that he was doing with Mel Gibson and Sean Penn, and he's like, "Hey, I'm thinking of, I got to record it somewhere. Would Logan like if I came out to Nashville and recorded it?" We're like, "Yeah." So come on out, and we got to sit there for a couple days, and it just wasn't even our movie, but come on out, and we got to sit there and we got to watch it and listen, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll send you advanced copies of the albums. Like, give me your thoughts on it, give me your notes."
Wow.
And it's just been just such a touching, just amazing thing. I mean, he's truly just become like a really close friend. I've just been loving it. So that's the composing side, and then on the music side, back to Andy Ross asking me what kind of music. So I sent him Def Leppard, Huey Lewis in the News, Howard Jones, Led Zeppelin, Queen, whatever. And he is like, okay, well, we can work with this, and next thing I know, I'm on a phone call with Huey Lewis. Now, I'm 49 years old. I grew up in the Bay Area, so Huey Lewis was like the hugest thing.
Yes.
My wife, she went to San Jose State and whatever. So I get on a phone call and I'm like, hey, I'm going to be patching in Huey Lewis. No warning, just, hey, Huey Lewis. And I'm like, holy crap, and my wife's like, what? And I'm like, Huey Lewis is getting on the phone, and she's literally tore the phone out of my. I'm like, this is a professional business call,
I want to talk to you.
Like she's like ripping off her shirt and everything, And so, just instinctively, So I said, because it was like, hey, I got 5 words in, and I said, "I'm sorry, Huey. It's really nice to meet you, but can you please say hello to my wife?" And she's like, "Hi, Huey," and then she's like, my God, it's Huey, And so he is, the sweetest guy in the world. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to be playing, one of the theaters, in a couple months, coming out. So sure enough, he came out and we met with him, and, my wife and I are, dressed up, and we sat down with him and his agent, and he's like, I love the movie. I read this. I mean, he knew every detail of the script.
Oh, wow.
He read the script, and he's like, I got this song I'm going to do, and blah, 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 whatever. And we just took pictures because we couldn't believe it, and whatever. And then the next one was Howard Jones, and Howard, not just a phone call. He and his wife came over to my office and sat and watched the movie at our house.
Oh, wow.
Him and his wife. And he had a concert that night. So I'm going to watch the movie. And then he had a concert. Well, before the concert, he wrote half of a song. And so afterwards, he's like, come to my trailer in the back. And he's playing it for me. And I'm going, holy crap. And then there was a song, the Don't Stop Me Now song from Queen.
Yeah.
That we didn't ask Queen for permission. We had just put it in because it was really good. And, when you're making a movie, you put in placeholder of this would be a cool song. And Andy somehow got them to say, yeah, sure, you can have it. But it was like $500,000 for the song. Our entire music budget was $200,000, right? So he's like, well, can you? I was like, I can't come. We love this song. It's perfect.
Yeah.
But I said, do you think they would? The movie was half made. It was mostly storyboards and whatever. But do you think they would watch the film and maybe give us a discount? And so he's like, oh, we can ask. Sure. So they sent it out to the UK. They sat down with their family. They watched the film. We heard back. Sure. We'll give it to you for like nothing.
Oh, my God.
They just liked the film. They thought it was cute.
Wow.
They gave it to us for like nothing. And we're like, oh my God, we've got a Queen song. Like, like I was typing in the credits and I was typing in, like written by Freddie Mercury. Like, it was like the weirdest thing, right?
That's awesome because I feel like that might be my favorite part of the movie.
It's perfect for that montage.
It
right
really
there.
is. And I didn't pick it. It was actually Jaime out in Spain. And the thing that Jaime did was he put the whole song in. So about halfway through, I was kind of getting bored. I was like, okay, this is really dragging on. And so it turned me off to the song. And but he fought for it, and he's like, I was like, it's just this 3 minutes worth, and so he's like, so he edited it down to like half of that, and it really just kind of just sung, and we loved it, and I'm glad we were able to get it. And then there was Toad the Wet Sprocket, which is a 90s thing, But I had, like, this wasn't Andy. I had went to their Facebook page, and I just said, "Hi, my name is Scott, and I'm making a movie, and I really like you guys. And could you give me a song?" And Dean Dinning, who is their bassist, he replied. He was like, "Hey, yeah, this kind of looks cool. Send us this and that." So I sent it to him. They really liked it, and so I was talking to Dean and everything, and he says, Glenn Phillips is living in Nashville right now. I said,
really?
Get out of here. He says, yeah.
Like everybody else.
Yeah. So he says, he's written a song for you. And really? Can he come by? Okay. So, and I don't know if you guys know this, but we had in our house, we have a house in Franklin, and my office was in a basement, and we had black mold in the basement. So my friend says, we got to clear this whole place out. We had to strip it down or whatever. And he's a movie buff, and he's also a really talented construction guy. He says, Scott, you never leave the house. You're basically a hobbit. He goes, I'm going to turn your office into a hobbit hole. And so he did. So my office has these arches and fake wood.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
It's really, really cool.
Awesome.
So when I say the hobbit hole, that's what
okay. I was wondering.
Yeah.
It was just a...
So one day Glenn Phillips comes to the hobbit hole and he sits down, I'm showing him, some stuff, and he sings me this song, just this amazing Toad the Wet Sprocket song that he wrote for my movie. Wow. And I'm just sitting there listening, and I was like, when he's done, I was like, that is amazing. And then after a beat, I said, I have a few notes. Okay. and he took it but my notes were simply, can we add a couple more animal themed kind of stuff? Like the music's great, the lyrics are great, but can we add a little bit more, like I can eat a horse kind of thing, or whatever. And he was like, oh, absolutely. And then we drank some tea, and then he headed off his way. But it was like, it was surreal. And then and then the next would be Michael Bublé. I was it was a couple summers ago, and I was dealing with Ryan Kavanaugh at the time from Relativity, and Ryan calls me up and he says, "Hey, I've got Michael Bublé is can you do a video conference in half an hour?" And I was like, "Okay." So yeah, sure. So I ran home and I have a TV set up. I put on the camera and everything, and I was 5 minutes early. So I was like in this video channel waiting. So I have my art table opposite that. So I was painting. So I'm painting, and I swear to Michael, this must have looked like some old cheesy TV show, because I hear whistling behind me, and I turn around with the paintbrush and I go, "Oh, I didn't see you there." And it must have looked so staged,
It's very Bob Rossian.
Yeah, and hi, I'm Scott. I'm a painter, And so the two of us, we were just chatting for an hour, and we just hit it off. He's just a great dad, and this and that and everything else, and he gave us he's like, here's a bunch of songs I just wrote for my new album, and we're like, okay, I really like this one, and oh, that's great, and then let's direct a music video together. So I'm directing a music video with Michael Bublé, and we storyboard the whole thing out, and long story short is his son got sick and got cancer, and he's in remission now, thank God, but he kind of had to drop everything, and then everything went kind of bad with the distribution, and then things just, but he and I remain good friends, and we talk. But I've found 100% that the musicians have been the most down to earth people I've ever met. And you're thinking that these are going to be people who were just, and not that the actors were anything but genuinely nice, but and it might be because it's a different industry, but they call me up like once a month. Hey, how's everything going? Hey, is this a, hey, I got an idea for this. Hey, they're just genuinely thrilled for the movie, and they just want to talk. Like, you know, like Michael and I would just talk for hours just about how nervous he was about his album coming out. And, you know, and I'm like, you're Michael Bublé. I think you'll be fine, you know. But, you know, we talk about kids, we talk about, you know, but they're just, you know, and I don't know. And I think the connection that I had with the musicians that I didn't have with the actors was, musicians take nothing and they create it. You know, they create the music, they write the songs, they create it. Actors, and no knock on what actors do, but actors are given the script.
Sure.
They're dressed. They're put in front of a camera. They're, you know, they're not, for the most part. Stallone, you know, wrote, you know, but for the most part, they're not. You know, John Krasinski's writing too. So. There's always that crossover, but for the most part, acting is, you tell me what to say, tell me where to go, and I'll go do it. But I think there was more of a kinship as a creator, as an artist, that I had with the musicians that I didn't hit all the time with the actors, and I've really cherished that. You know, it's been a really cool thing. And then one last music thing was we were watching the movie and watched, you know, and you see the movie 1,000 times, and Ian McKellen's character monologues. You know, there's just a point in time where you can't avoid, I have to explain my plans to the audience.
Yeah.
You know, and I did it as concisely as possible, but it was there. And I was going, it's a monologue. Now, granted, it's Ian McKellen doing a monologue, which is not bad, but it could be more. And so I said to Jamie, what if he broke out into song? and Jamie says, well, there's two problems with that. And I said, what? He goes, well, one, Ian McKellen can't sing. And two, we don't know how to write music. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, let's tackle number two. Who do we know who writes music? And he was like, what kind of music do you like? And I said, my kids love Phineas and Ferb.
Oh yeah.
They love, and there's a musical thing on every one of them. He's like, and Jamie says, well, I work with Dan and Swampy who created Phineas and Ferb, and they write.
Of course he did.
Of course he does. You know, it's like, I'll just text him. You know? and so next thing I know, we're on. Now this is my kid's favorite TV show, and next thing I know, it was summertime, and we flew out to Los Angeles. And we're sitting in a room with Dan and Swampy, and they're doing drawings of Phineas and Ferb and Dr. Doofenshmirtz, and Dan is the voice of Dr. Doofenshmirtz, and Swampy is the voice of the inspector, the chief, you know. But they both are artists, so they were able to draw the characters and sign them to the boys and everything, and they wrote these songs for us. And so then the next hurdle was to get Ian McKellen to sing a duet with Gilbert Gottfried, which is not as easy as it sounds. I would imagine. But I swear, Ian McKellen did an amazing job. He was nervous.
He did.
He was nervous.
I don't think I'd ever heard him sing before.
No, he has it. He's a Shakespearean actor.
Yeah.
And we had him do a duet with Gilbert Gottfried, written by Phineas and Ferb's creator. I mean, it wasn't like I got Lin-Manuel or something like that, but it was amazing. And so, you know, we look at, like, we basically set no limits. It was like, well, I want to work with Queen. And then somehow it happened, and I want to work with, you know, I want to make a musical, you know, and somehow that happened. And, you know, it was really amazing, you know, just kind of all click. The production was just, it was 2.5 years of just bliss. You know, every day was like, oh my God, I can't believe we're doing this, you know? And I would direct the shots from the Hobbit hole. So every morning I would wake up to like 100 shots, and they would be on this the software called Shotgun, and I would, you know, I'd play it, and I would give notes, and I could pause it, and I could draw and say, make his mouth a little bigger here. Can you hold on to this, or and give my notes and send it off and approve, or, you know, give notes, and just, it was cool.
Were you previously on the other side of those notes? So you were working on the animation side, and you would get directing notes and make those changes. So that had to inform.
It helped,
what you were doing.
It helps. I mean, that's how I think it needs to come. That's where Tony came from, and that's where I came from. Tony was traditional animation. I was CGI. I did like the Casper movies. I did you know, Power Rangers and stuff like that. But you know, Tony, as far as Animation is, in a whole other category than I am. So, but mine was strictly just gut. I'm doing the best I can, and really, I don't look at Animal Crackers as I'm not going to win any awards. I'm not going to become rich from it or anything like that. I just wanted to see if I could do it, and I think, the fact that I did it is enough for me. And then the only last thing is I just want other people to see it.
Yeah.
For better or for worse, I just want other people to see it. And I have no desire to be a director. I have no desire to be a movie producer or writer or anything like that. I think it was just one of those mountains I just wanted to climb. But I had such a fun time doing it that I want to do another one.
Sure, yeah.
And and I don't see myself working for Pixar. I don't see myself being a Brad Bird or anything. I just if I could carve out a little niche where I could just tell fun stories and they don't suck, I'd be happy.
I was gonna ask, since there are, and I see this on animation a lot, there are 3 credited directors on this movie. So it's you, and it's Tony Bancroft and Jaime Maestro.
Yeah.
Who was responsible for what? What was their role on each one of these?
Yeah, the way that we dealt it was we put Tony was mostly the storyboards. He was head of story. He got all of these great names. He got Will Finn. He got John Pomeroy. He got all these huge names to do the storyboards for us. And that created a lot of the visuals. It created a lot of the pacing. It created a lot of the camera work and everything like that. And then it went over to, that was the first part. And then we wound up doing our sequences with John and Emily, and then we kind of scrapped a lot of it because it was Tony, and we kept Tony's voice. He's Stabby, the knife thrower. He does it, because Tony's a ham. I mean, Tony loves being in front of the camera. He loves to ham it up. But so we had the whole movie worked out, and it was boring. No offense to Tony or anything like that. It was just, you're hearing storyboard artists, you're hearing the director do this, and it was based on the script. There's such a leap from script to, if you let the right actors just have fun. I mean, like I can only imagine what it must have been like having Robin Williams and at Disney for Aladdin. But to watch them just run with it, and then we went and did a radio play. And then what we did was I let Jaime's team do what's called blocking. So they did 3D based on the storyboards for camera setup. They would block out the sequences based on the radio play that we had edited. And then once I approved that, then it came back to me and I was doing everything after there. So,
I got you.
It was, not to take away anything, because, Jaime was handling everything on the day-to-day. So there was so much stuff that I never had to deal with, because Jaime would go, no, Scott's never going to like that. You're going to have to make this look better. This shot, this character needs more weight when they fall down, and this and that. So he was handling everything on that. Tony was basically helping us set up the team. He was helping with the storyboards and everything. And then, of course, he was showing me everything I was doing wrong on the directing side. He's like a big brother in that way, and Tony is the face, and Tony goes out to he's been to China how many times. He goes to he'll go to Annecy, he'll go here. He loves the film, talks about the film, knows what to say, and he doesn't have panic attacks in front of a group like I do. So he's perfect for that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious to know because just to sort of sum up how we came to even know who you were, a fan of ours on Twitter, Frank. We call him Frank from Twitter. We've actually met him in person.
His full name.
But he read the story that you mentioned early in this interview and sent it to me and said, this guy lives in Middle Tennessee. And I was like, what? So I clicked it, and it was one of those experiences where, like, the more I read, the more I couldn't believe that this was not released yet, or was struggling to find a release, because it's one of those things when it starts with the voice cast, and then you start naming off all the musicians and all the people behind the scene, and you're like, this is awesome, right? Yeah. And then I watched the trailer, and it's got one of the things I really want to praise you about, and I don't know who gets the credit, but you have a very distinct visual style here that sits on its own. Like, it doesn't look like Illumination stuff. It doesn't look like Pixar stuff. And it's great looking, but it's very distinctive and unique. And Anyway, so where do we stand now? If our fans are listening to this, as we hope they are, wanting to see this film, what are the odds of that happening?
I don't know. I mean, I this whole week I've been hoping that something would happen, something would change. I'll go, well,
You dropped the news on this.
Yeah.
Breaking news, folks.
exclusive. But it's been more of the same stuff. I mean, the film has been done since January 2017, and to have gone through everything, we'll say it was a couple of years of trying to raise the money, then a couple of years of making the film, and then to just be looking at it and saying we did it, and then it's just sitting there, and it's been hell. I'll say, honestly, it's been hell. I mean, my wife and I are just, struggling with depression and struggling with, I mean, it's tough because we've gone through now 3 distributors, and we've had money stolen from us. We've had every promise broken, and I if I was a conspiracy theorist, I would say that there's a cabal that's trying to keep the film from coming out, or it's a Harvey Weinstein's pissed off because I turned him down, or something like that. But I just don't think Hollywood's that organized. I just don't think they've got it in them. And but the thing is that I watch. Boss Baby got nominated for an Academy Award.
It sure did. It frustrated me too, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still just. How did Emoji Movie get made?
Yes,
and who put up the $100 and something million at it? So for the cost of one Emoji Movie, I could make 10 films that don't suck as bad. I'm not saying I'm going to win an award. I don't. Not everybody can be the best. And on top of that, your first movie coming out of the gate isn't going to be great. I look at all of the things I did wrong in this, and I know if I get a chance to do another one, the improvements that I'll make. But I genuinely, and my team genuinely loved making the movies. Yeah. And for all of the screenings that we've done, we screened it at Cannes Film Festival, we screened it at Annecy, we screened it at the Shanghai Film Festival. Everybody seems to really like the film. And to the point of, I know it doesn't suck. That's all I need to know. I just need to know it doesn't suck. But the thing is that unfortunately, a movie with this cast, and I think maybe we kind of hurt ourselves because the cast got too big. We got too big of music and whatnot, and the quality was much better than they thought. And I think had you gone with something like a Norm of the North kind of look, where hey, we can make this movie for $5 million. It's going to look like crap and stars John Schneider, and there you go. And we could put that film out, and there's no way we could lose our money because we only made it for $5 million. We only spent $5 million marketing it. Hey, look, we made $10 million. We're good. Let's go make another movie like that. I think once we hit, hey, we're going to make this movie for $20 million, and the movie looks like it needs at least $20 million in marketing. Now you're in it for $40 million, and it scares away the bigger studios who were competing with their $150 million movies, because most every studio has, Fox has Blue Sky, Universal has Illumination, Sony has their own animation. So everybody's got their own animation. So you're either competing with a Disney or a Universal or whatnot, or it's the smaller studios that say, oh, we could do it, and then they can't raise the $20 million. And so they promise you the moon. This movie's going to be big. The movie was supposed to come out in April of last year, and then it was supposed to come out in September, and then it was supposed to come out in April again, and now we're looking at September again. And it's the constant, oh, we don't have the money. We're still working on it. We're still working on it. But I can't move on to the next one until I get out of this contract, because I have other studios saying, oh, we have the money. But it's kind of like you got to keep going through them all until you find someone who actually has it. My only other option is to put out the film myself. But I would need another $5 million because you have to pay the theater chains. You have to market it. You have to put up those little posters and everything else. And so I think my best case would be if I could make the money back to pay my investors on your YouTube channel, I would give it to you. If there was a way to monetize it. And I will say this, The movie's coming out on 12,000 screens in China in 4 weeks.
Oh, that's
Wow.
awesome.
So yeah, I mean, it's the Chinese investors. They gave us $13.5 million, and I said, regardless of what happens here, you guys put it out. And so that's why it's at the Shanghai Film Festival. And I don't know if you guys had a chance to see the Chinese trailer, but they're making toys and plushes. And,
Oh, really?
And all
Oh,
this.
that's
They're
awesome.
doing a huge. There's on Twitter, I think I posted, but Tony Bancroft was walking the red carpet with a giant hamster and Bullet Man and some of the investors, and they were so good to me. They've been out $13.5 million for 4 years. Haven't said boo about it. But earlier this year they said we've waited long enough. We've got to release the film because they were going to wait for a United States release, for a worldwide release. They said we just got to put the film out. We've got to recoup our money. China has been promoting it. We've got to do it. And so the film's coming out. I won't see anything from it, but the film's coming out on July 27th, and I hope it does really well. But I've been saying if Hollywood just keeps treating me like this, I might just give it away for free and just go, here, I'm just going to put up my YouTube channel, and everybody's going to sue me. The investors who haven't been paid back are going to sue me. The studios who currently have the rights to distribute are going to sue me. Everybody's going to sue. I'm going to have to file for bankruptcy and I'll be broke. But I just don't know. I don't know how much longer I'm supposed to wait. I mean, I think almost 2 years of sitting on a finished film is at least shows that I've had some patience. I mean, I'm not
Sure.
a patient person, but I don't know how much longer I'm supposed to, because I mean, I get calls every day from studios and executives and producers saying, oh, I can totally get your movie. I can totally get it out. I just need you to get out of your last deal. And every time I do that, I go to that person and then they don't do it.
Yeah.
And so honestly, I don't know. I if I could go back in time and if I had the option, I would have raised an extra $5 or $10 million and put that aside to just market it myself.
See, what you need to do. Never mind. I was just about to make a Suge Knight joke from Straight Outta Compton, because when they needed to get out of the contract, they
dangle somebody over.
they just beat his ass in the studio.
I thought you were talking about the Vanilla Ice thing where he dangled Vanilla Ice over the.
I was thinking of Straight Outta Compton. Inappropriate. I apologize.
You said how many screens in China?
They're saying 12,000 screens.
12,000. That's a lot.
That's a lot of screens.
Like when
China's very big.
Like the biggest, the
It's
big
like space is really big.
Exactly. It's like the biggest movies here in America are 4,000 plus.
Yeah.
So 12,000 to me, I'm like sitting there going, did he mean 1,200? It's like this 12,000.
Yeah, I don't think I think you could go to China and live there the rest of your life and not comprehend how big China is.
Yeah.
And both in number of people and in size.
No kidding. But
So that's good though, because that at least for your investors, they have a shot to earn back
the
their
Chinese
money.
investors will make back their money.
That's great.
I'm hoping it makes. I
mean, I'm not
$100
trying
million
to
there, but
I'm not trying to say that should cure all your pain,
It
but
won't.
there does seem to be some genuineness to you that you are a good guy. You do want them to make their money back.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing that's really held us up is the studio deals that we got from the bigger studios were, hey, Scott, we love this movie. It's going to make us a lot of money. When we mean us, we mean us.
Right.
You won't see any of it. Your investors won't see any of it, but this will be really good for your career. And I said, I'm 49 years old. I'm really not looking at my career right now. I need to make some money. My kids are going to be going to college. I invested the last 4 years of my life in hopes that I would see something from this. Not to mention, my investors put in $20 million. I'm sure they'd like to see their money back, to which their response is, your investors, they're used to losing money. They'll get over it. And this is, and what am I supposed to say? What do you tell your investors? Sony really loved it, but they feel
You guys are used to losing money, right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
let's start
not
there.
forget, this is the same industry where George Miller has had to sue the studio because they're basically telling him that Fury Road didn't make money. So, I mean, and that is one of dozens of stories I've heard over the course of my life reading about Hollywood, where the creative math, right? Where it's, I mean, you certainly give me a lot better understanding of how little they care about the individual.
Oh, absolutely. I've had, over these last several weeks, over the last several months, I've in writing and on the phone pleaded implored upon these people and saying, look, please, if there's any humanity you have left, please just let me go and try to find you're telling me you can't do it, but you don't want to give it up just so that you can hold me hostage to get some money. Because that's what they do. If they can sign a contract with you, then they can hold you hostage and say, well, I've got a contract, and if you don't want me putting an injunction on this film and you want a quit claim that says that, you're free, you're going to have to pay me some money.
Jeez.
Let's start the bidding at. And that's where they go. And that's happened to me 3 times now. And we've lost money out of our budget because of this thing. And, I'm not independently wealthy. I'm not, and so I can't cover this stuff. And my investors are like, we're not going to put any more money in here, So what do you do? And we've tried lawsuits. We've tried, take it and you can blow through $100,000 in 4 months and get nowhere. And so extortion is the only way to go. That's the quickest way. If you're going to get into a lawsuit, don't pay off.
Wow.
And they know that. And it's not just the studios, it's just random people. There's an investor that was going to put up $5 million into our film. And we did a contract. And then at the last minute decided, we don't want to do it. Why? Well, we don't like this deal. So we're going to back out. Okay. A week later, I got a bill for $100,000 and 2.5% of the gross of the film.
What?
Why? Well, that's our legal fees. Okay. No. So they sued me. And then they sued me again. And now they're suing me again. And it's blown through all of our, and they know they don't have a case. But here's the thing. When the studios find out, hey, you've got some guy from Philadelphia is trying to sue you, we can't put the film out until you settle. We need you to give him his $100,000. I'm not giving this guy anything.
Right.
Well, if you don't, we can't put it out. So then what they do is they negotiate. Now, once the studio starts talking, that number goes up. Oh, you can't do anything until, you can't do anything until, okay, I want $1 million. These are people I met once who made a promise, broke the promise, never had anything to do with the film. Now they're going to get a ton of money, and I'm still broke. Wow. And I created it, I wrote it, I directed it, produced it, and I'm broke. And so hold on a second. They're going to get 2.5% of the gross of the film, and I don't get anything. How is this? And this is so. I'm thinking, God, if I could find a good lawyer, maybe I could sue my own film. And I can get some money out of it.
I'll tell you what, I'll sue you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then whatever you're forced to pay me, I'll give to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That'll be amazing.
I mean, you're making me want to fly out to L.A. like Silent Bob style and start beating some ass door to door.
Yeah.
Like, are you investor 1307? I'm about to go ham on your face.
Right.
Trust me, I've got a lot of cousins and uncles in New York from my Sicilian side who are making that offer, but my wife and I, and she coined the term, that we're just trying to make this world, a happier place. Did you guys ever see that video of Mr. Rogers in he's, with the Senate?
Yes.
And and he's got this hard-assed senator saying, why should we put our hard-earned tax money into your show? And Mr. Rogers just calmly explained everything that he's done. And within 5 minutes, he had that guy almost in tears. He's like, you've got it, and he didn't have to yell. He didn't have to trick. He just showed him what compassion can do, and God, if my wife and I, I've got a dozen books I've written, for my kids, and they show diversity, they show, wonder and joy, and just it's for kids, and the world absolutely needs more of this stuff, and we thought we were there, we got it to the 1 yard line, and we just can't get it into the end zone because of greed. And it's just and like I said, we're just bamboozled, just bamboozled,
man.
So this is probably still something that you wouldn't even know, but should it be a hit in China, does that tell a distributor, all right, I can raise the $20 million, or do they look at China differently?
Does that give you any shot to have leverage here?
I don't know. It's twofold. One, the Chinese are putting it out in English and in Chinese.
Oh, really?
Which means it's probably going to be pirated by the end of July.
Yeah.
Two, I think it could help, but I also think what happens in China doesn't normally translate to what happens. I mean, it's amazing how short-sighted Hollywood producers are. I don't know if you've ever heard the term, but everybody in Hollywood wants to be second. They never want to be first. And so that's why you usually see 2 or 3 tornado movies, or this movie. They hey, that movie did well. Let's do that.
Right.
They follow trends. Hey, this actor's really hot, so let's use them. And they don't innovate. And so when they meet someone like myself and 100 other innovators, creative people who say, hey, I've got an idea, this is going to be something that's really good, they just can't believe them. And that's why you need to bring on the big names. That's why you need to validate it in terms that they can understand.
Yeah.
Chinese box office, a Chinese, how many Monkey King movies do they make a year? A Chinese movie doesn't always translate to American audiences, and they know that. So it'll have little weight to them on that.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And what about Kickstarter?
Oh God, I've done Kickstarter 5 times, for my books, and I've been successful. But I would love to do a Kickstarter. I mean, I would love to sell the film directly to people. If I can get 1 million people to give me $20, I'm good. And if I could find a way to do it, and no, but the thing is, it is a Hail Mary that if you wind up with $67,000, no one's ever going to buy your movie, and so you really, if I knew that I knew, I would totally do it, because I would love to, but yeah, unfortunately, it's just, and I hate to ask you guys on air what you guys saw of the movie, because technically your job is to crap on every movie that you see, but
not in this podcast, actually. That's correct. I will tell you that your movie has now been shown in my house 3 times within the last 24 hours.
Really?
I watched it by myself. I watched it with my son and my nephew, and then my son and my nephew wanted to watch it again literally right after it ended.
Really?
So yes,
that's a good sign.
Yes,
that is good market research. I liked it.
Thank you.
When you were saying earlier about knowing that it doesn't suck, I almost broke in and said it definitely doesn't suck.
Oh, thank you.
It's charming. You have a super clever idea, and it's just you're right in my wheelhouse of complaining about Hollywood just copy pasting ideas and people and not originating anything. They're just out of original ideas. And so one of the reasons I liked your story immediately was that you have a very original idea. You didn't come up with, a Megamind ripoff. You didn't come up with, which, Despicable Me kind of is. You didn't come up with, something that seems derivative. And I just feel like that, it's just such a shame that can't get a fair shake.
Well, exactly. And you've tapped into, which has got to be so difficult. It's like the best music that just goes straight to the limbic system and gives you goosebumps, right? You were saying that you were out playing in your backyard with your kids, and you turn into this animal. My 2-year-old nephew was literally turning into the lion when he would see it on screen.
Really?
He would turn it into the gorilla. That
God.
kind of thing. It was the reaction, because I had already seen it, but watching them react to it was just the greatest thing in the world, because one was 10 and one is 2, and they were both just absolutely right into it.
I wish I could see this movie with kids, because that would
just go out and grab you some.
Right, exactly. Just go out there somewhere. Hey, kid, come here. I watched this movie, believe it or not, through my Oculus Go.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Yeah, and what's so great about and Facebook can pay me anytime, but what's so great about an Oculus Go is that I can go to a site like Vimeo or whatever and look at something on a big screen, almost, essentially. It just simulates that. Yeah. And once I was able to tap into it and everything, and I put that headset on, I was able to watch this like I was in a movie
That's
theater.
Awesome.
And so, yeah, everything's very vibrant and pops out and everything. I can see some things like you don't, it doesn't seem to lend itself to like plush toys and marketing and stuff like that. Like these are human characters.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that I thought, well, maybe that's the reason why this is hard to sell for some people, is because there doesn't seem to be an immediate that you can tell on the surface anything that you could sell in a Walmart or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's, I was sitting there, I was disgusted by that, because it's just one of those things, like, if you don't have this stupid thing,
Right.
and who knows? I mean, like, you've gone through a million different things here of why these distributors are not coming through on all of this. There's a million different reasons.
I have a tendency to think that I can solve everyone's problems.
You can. You totally can.
Have you talked to any animal cracker companies?
I did. Actually, that was the one of the other things that Harvey Weinstein said is, I don't see you doing this movie without Nabisco on board. And so I spent 2 years calling Nabisco. Hello? Just the front desk. Hello? I'd like to speak to someone, and couldn't get through. And eventually I met a guy named Danny Stepper who deals in that stuff, and got us on the phone, got us a deal. Here's the crazy thing. They changed the box. Art for the box has not changed in like 50 years.
Yeah.
Changed the box, put our artwork on it, says now in theaters. Printed up 20 million boxes, and they sat for a year.
Oh.
They eventually had to destroy them.
Oh.
So, yeah, Nabisco was
So
on
what
board.
you're saying is, in trying to throw out an idea to help solve your problem, I just dragged up a
put
terrible
some
memory.
salt on the wound. Yeah,
I get the
sorry.
sense that's what we could come up with. A
He's
million
already
different.
thought
He's
of.
already thought of it, and there's already a bad story.
Yeah, I'm not throwing out any more ideas. I'll tell you that much.
that's it's like Shaquille O'Neal in the free throws, right?
Just stop trying. Why waste any effort?
It's like everybody's got a solution for it. He's like, I've tried that already. Stop.
Yeah, I'm done. Sorry.
I do have one question. Because one of the studios said to me recently that the beginning was so slow that they want the movie. Here's it's not just one, but I've heard from a few of the studio executives. The movie's called Animal Crackers, and in the trailer we see someone turning into an animal. Start the movie off with that. And I go, so like if we were going to go back and do Jaws, start with the shark coming right at you. Let's show the Ark of the Covenant, the first thing, because it's the Raiders of the Lost Ark. And basically the way that they said to re-edit the movie was, poof, holy moly, I'm a hamster. Go run around and everything. Pause. You may be wondering why I turned into a hamster. And then do the rewind and go back. And I said, that's where you get emoji movie stuff. That's where you get this stuff. I said, how is it? It's 20, because they're like, it's 25 minutes until you see someone turn into an animal. Okay. But I mean, that builds up to otherwise, if you just show someone turning into a hamster, what's the story behind it? There's no, and I don't know, and I know this is every artist. You go, is it just me? Am I being stubborn? Because I don't I'm the artist. I know what I'm doing. I have no idea what I'm doing, but my gut is telling me that you need to learn about the history, how everything came back, and I put musical numbers in there, so it's not boring. You've got all these great characters. You learn. And then when all of this stuff happens, it has more impact. And I think the ending, I'm really happy with the ending. It's really high tension and everything. And that reminds me, in the UK, they want to edit the ending. They said it's too scary.
What?
Yeah, with the bad guy, but yeah.
Oh, come on.
They said it's too scary.
What kind of pussy-ass children are out there right now?
Come on.
The stuff that we used to watch growing up. Are you kidding me?
Come on, Britain.
I just called all of Britain.
Yeah.
You pussy.
We actually have a long history of making fun of all of the British at once. So this fits right in with our brand.
I was really shocked. I mean, they just, I'll go on to another thing because this is just train of thought. So what had happened during the production was I wrote the book, the Animal Crackers, and all of my books for twin boys. I'm a guy. I'm writing a book for two boys, so they're very boy-centric. Lots of poop and fart jokes and, whatever. Robots and aliens and pirates and whatnot. And so as we're writing, the movie, it's about Owen and his crappy job and everything he's going through. And I just want to say something where social media does have an impact. Because and this is before Me Too, because this is 4 years ago. But as I'm seeing what women are going through, as I'm seeing, how they're misrepresented and everything, I started realizing I'm seeing everything through my own point of view. And why does Zoe just the wife that pops in from time to time? Then Emily Blunt came on board, and you're like, holy crap, Emily Blunt's on board. I should probably give her, more of a role. And then it just, a couple of our producers, my wife, and you start to kind of open your eyes to, it's not a man's world, it's not one color. It's not, and you start to say, I'm now creating entertainment that kids are going to be seeing. I'm creating entertainment that more people, are going to be enjoying. I've got a bit more responsibility. Again, I'm not Brad Bird. I'm not, but I still have a responsibility. Mm-hmm. So we went back and we rewrote the finale to where it wasn't Owen who was saving the day. Mm-hmm. It was Zoe and it was Mackenzie saving the day. And it made it so much better because it kind of like keeps ramping up and ramping up and ramping up. And it really, this is a funny story. Geena Davis and Harvey Weinstein walk into a room.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was the Pope there?
Yeah. They were screening the film for a festival. And Geena Davis does this festival in Arkansas about, it's women in film. And so she told me, or she told one of our people that there was a number of lines that women average in film, and I went back through and I read it and I was under the number. I mean, I was pretty high up there comparatively to most films, but I was still under there. And that was after I'd made that effort. And, but, she watched the film and she's seeing things with, I don't want to say her agenda, but she's fighting for something.
Her perspective.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's eye opening to see that, originally I wanted Zoe to be African-American, just when we were designing her or whatever. And the Chinese were like, no, we can't do that because they want the film to look more Chinese, and I wanted to have gay, parents, for, in my next film, I wanted to do this. And it's amazing what behind the scenes roadblocks you get, well, I won't give you money if those parents are gay. I won't give you money if there's too many black people in it. I won't do this if there, and it's amazing. And I've actually had to turn down money for films because of that. And, but it works. People constantly talking about it and bringing this stuff up actually works. It affects change on so many levels. And so, I just, as we were talking a little bit about the ending, it kind of changed because of people on Twitter, people on YouTube, people, just people talking about how they feel unrepresented.
Well, it shows what kind of thought that you put into this. It's not just pooping out a Norm of the North or something like that. It's, we're thinking about the finer aspects of this, not just a really cool story and really cool animation, great music and all that stuff. Little things like that we would never even think of that go into the production of a singular event,
Yeah, that was something I did notice about this movie. By the time it was done, I sort of stood back and I thought, who are the heroes of this story? You have Zoe, Binkley, and Mackenzie, all are the ones who I think, maybe not the forefront of the movie, but they are the sort of the anchors or whatever you want to call it that make this story happy in the end
Yeah,
or whatever.
they're basically the decision makers. Like it
Yeah.
takes Zoe making the decisions that she does to turn everything around.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was something I fought with Tony, and friendly fought, but the Disney way is the hero's journey.
Mm.
And so, Tony kept saying, we need to focus on the hero's journey, Owen's journey. And I kept saying, no, it's got to be the family. Well, the family is just too broad. It was just too broad. Now it's like the family has their journey. The family's going through. That's why I also had Zoe quit.
Right.
And go and quit from her job that she's working for her father.
Mm-hmm.
And because she believed in it. And then we had the whole red nose thing, which I don't know if you guys noticed, but the red nose is like when you put it on, you're going on faith. When you take it off, you're going on on logic, And so it was like, it wasn't until Owen's like, boom, I'm going to put this on. I'm quitting my job and I'm going to do this. But when Chesterfield gave him that, he dropped it. He's like, no, and she picks it up and she puts on. She goes, I'm going to do it. We're going to do it. And so these little changes came about because of Emily. And the other part was, oh God, I'm all over the place. But the other part was, 5 years ago, before this movie got made, we were in that Sylvester Stallone situation. We were on food stamps. Our house was in foreclosure. They repoed my car. And my wife, she was home with the kids, and I couldn't get any work. There's no work for artists out here. And I mean, so she went to go back to work. The boys were, I think, in third grade, and she went back to work. She worked at Target for minimum wage, unloading the docks at 5 a.m. And then eventually got a temp job, and then eventually was like an assistant at one of the healthcare companies, bringing in $40,000 a year. So we were able to get off of food stamps. And I kept saying, I got to come up with, I got to get a real job. I've got to do it. And she said, no, I believe you're going to get this movie made. I believe in you. She goes, if we have to give it another year. And she worked 2 years until we finally got the money.
Wow.
And so that went a long way in saying it's not a one person thing. I mean, it's anybody who's in a marriage, especially with kids, knows it's a team effort. And so, a lot of that just really went to that experience, but I hope that, if anybody ever gets to see the film other than you three, I have hope
that people will.
Yeah. That they'll see that, you know.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I know you've probably heard this a lot, and it may not mean much, but I get such a great feeling from this movie and from this story, and hopefully will be a tiny help of getting the story out to our listeners, that it seems like this movie should have a happy ending. This whole story should have a happy ending.
Thanks.
And I'm very much hoping for it, and I'm almost expecting it. So we'll will it into existence.
Yeah.
There
Thank
you go.
you. Thanks.
With the power of our social media reach.
That's right. And I'm going to be looking at this when July 27th rolls around. I'm going to be checking out Box Office Mojo and all that, and making sure that it's like, is it doing well in China? Like, I mean, it's got to be a little bit of a hope there if it does.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great story. It's a fantastic movie. It looks beautiful, sounds beautiful.
Thank you.
You did a
guys.
great job.
I really do.
I appreciate you. I mean, because I think it would have been pretty easy for you to just send us some stuff, or pop in for 10 minutes and do a spiel, and to sit with us and be so genuine and open and tell the story, and I think it's going to come through on audio. It's coming through in the room that you're not selling us anything. You're not trying to put a coat on anything or spin on anything. You're just a good guy who has a story, who made a good movie, and now you're at this roadblock, and it just sucks.
It also makes you wonder how often this happens.
Yeah.
It's got to happen.
It's got to happen.
There's got to be a bunch of people in your boat right now who have a movie that's just sitting in the can, and it's got everything going for it, but for whatever stupid reason there is out there, like you said, Boss Baby, an emoji movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I can name worse movies even that make it into the movie
Oh,
theater.
they made a sequel to that nut job bullcrap.
They sure did. And it just, it's puzzling. That's what's the most frustrating thing, I think, hearing this story is that it's more puzzling than it is disappointing.
It almost deserves its own, like, Making a Murderer, like, investigative journalism podcast thing where people
There's a
are
lot
like,
of layers to
let's
this,
uncover why this movie is yet to be released.
Do you have anything else that you would like to add?
Oh God, no! Like I said, I could talk about this stuff for days.
I'm sure you could. I think we could fill like 40 podcasts with you just talking about Ian McKellen.
Well, and we'll definitely put the trailer in the description so
Absolutely.
everybody listening can check it out and give their feedback and maybe
appreciate
call
it.
their senator or whatever. I'm
Yeah,
not
yes,
exactly
definitely.
sure.
Call your
At
senator.
this point, we should be trying everything.
Make sure
Yeah.
that it's on the vote. Okay. Well, we appreciate you coming by today, man. And if you want to stick around, we got some questions I think we can answer. Or we.
What do you think? You want to
Yeah.
answer a few questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Question. I got something to say. I want the truth.
I am listening.
Hit us with the cues.
All right. I was channel surfing the other day and happened upon the 1957 classic The Bachelor Party and enjoyed it. My question is, what are some of your favorite movies based on a bachelor party?
You know, it's funny. There aren't very many movies that focus on bachelor parties.
I know.
There are bachelor party scenes in movies, and I think that could encompass the question. But this one is a bachelor party movie, and it's The Hangover.
Yeah.
The Hangover.
Maybe the
is-
most well-known of the last 20 years, 15 years?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's kind of hard to remember that it is a bachelor party movie, though, because so many insane things happen, and the actual person getting married is gone for most of the movie. So, but yeah, that's what they're there for. They're in Vegas, and they've basically remade "Dude, Where's My Car"
Yep.
on a higher level with some better jokes here and there, and
And a great Doug song.
a
So,
great Doug song.
I saw this once in theater and liked it a lot, and then it came on literally 2 days ago. It still holds up. I watched it again, and it still holds up.
Yeah.
But because they let themselves make a variety of different kinds of "we didn't know this was coming" type jokes. Like when they go downstairs, they give the valet their ticket. You don't know a joke is coming. Then a beat ass police car
Yeah.
pulls up, and you just see Bradley Cooper's face like go,
Yeah.
looks down because the movie is full of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It really works. Yeah, that's a good pick. That's basically the best answer we could give for this question.
I'd say so.
What about Bachelor Party with Tom Hanks?
Yeah, I'm sure.
there you
I
go.
think
Yes.
Barrett's going to say that.
Is that your
Yeah,
pick?
yeah, absolutely.
Let's share this pick. Please tell the audience why this is a superior pick to The Hangover.
Tom Hanks.
Yes.
Well, sometimes
80s vintage, total comedic buy-in.
Was
Tom
this his
Hanks.
first movie?
It was right around there. It was right around
First
the
or
Bosom
second?
Buddies.
No, because I think he did
era.
that like Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh,
or
I remember
something.
that. That's the
Ah.
Mazes and Monsters
Yeah,
TV show.
yeah.
Well, a TV movie or whatever. But yeah, he had done Bosom Buddies and he had done the Mazes and Monsters. And I think Bachelor Party was his first. Bachelor Party, and then it was not too long after that. There was some other movie he did. It might have been in the same year. But anyway.
It is flat out manic Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
Before he became Saving Private Ryan. Tom
Yeah.
Hanks, we think of Hanks as this everyman now that can play all the roles, but in this one he's chasing after his girlfriend with like a blender and suggesting using it for sexual experiences. And it's hilarious.
And wasn't his fiance the gal from the White
Tawny Katane.
Tawny Katane, the
Yes.
White Snake.
Oh,
video.
that's right.
Yeah. It's so much fun. This movie will make you absolutely just double over with laughter.
I miss that Tom Hanks, by the way.
I do too.
Yeah.
I
That
do
was
too.
where I personally he became one of my favorite actors was in the 80s because Splash was on all the time when I used to watch HBO and stuff like that. And I think it was probably good for him in the long run that he didn't, because then you have Jim Carrey coming in and all that. But like, it was good for his career that he did start slowly getting over into the dramatic roles, because you see how his career
Oh yeah, sure.
bloomed in the 90s. But I wish every once in a while he might throw out another manic Tom Hanks
I'm trying to think when the last time he did a movie that was straight comedy or even mostly comedy.
Even Big has Big.
I
is
would call
broad
Big
comedy.
a comedy,
Yeah.
but I'm thinking more like Charlie Wilson's War, or where there's laughs all throughout, but that's not a comedy.
The Lady Killers, I guess.
Lady
Yeah.
Killers would be a straight up comedy. Well, he throws himself so much in Cloud Atlas into all those roles. Like, he is chewing that up.
Yeah.
I wish he would do that kind of acting with another comedy role. I think
agree.
it'd be awesome.
What was the character he did in that Saturday Night Live? David S.
David S. Pumpkins.
yeah.
That was- exactly. It was
was
that
my-
Tom Hanks in
That
a movie.
was,
Yeah.
That when I saw that, I was like, "That's the Tom Hanks I remember."
Exactly.
Yeah.
That skit is so brilliant in its dumbness.
Yeah. I guess.
I wrote down Jerry Maguire because there's a fun bachelor party scene with Tom Cruise in the beginning where all his ex-girlfriends are on video, and then Kelly Preston's like using a torch to burn his little black book, and Eric Stoltz is there, making his requisite cameo in a Cameron Crowe film. I don't know. I knew somebody was going to pick The Hangover and somebody else was going to pick Bachelor Party, and I didn't want to pick like Very Bad Things or whatever.
Listen. Very Bad Things is better than people give it credit for.
But I'm giving it okay. Well, that's a tricky language, though.
It wasn't, and that means
That is like the worst endorsement.
well, I mean, that means you're introducing it as one of the best if you say it.
I like watching it. I think it's a lot of fun.
It's got some moments.
Yes.
I suppose you could call Bridesmaids sort of like a bachelorette party movie if you wanted
yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Well, there's a whole thing of that. Rough Night is a bachelorette party, but that's certainly not one of the best ones.
Rough
Yeah.
Night is and very much like Very Bad Things in that
exactly.
accidental murder.
I think it's the gender swapped Very Bad Things.
It might
in fact.
be.
Yeah.
I
It
might
think
be.
it's exactly like
Except only one involves a threesome with Demi Moore.
that's true.
Mm.
So true.
Why don't we move on?
Okay, yeah, moving on. Question: what is your favorite use of classical music in film? And I have been given this caveat that I can't choose 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is
Wow.
fine because I've got a million more.
It's also fine because somebody listens a lot when they're like putting restrictions on the answers they want from you.
Yeah,
So
that's
they
true.
must know how much you've talked about that movie.
But seriously, 2001 is the best use of classical music in film.
Yeah, I would.
It's up there.
I wouldn't
It's
have
up
a
there.
hard time arguing with that.
No.
My favorite use is Adagio for strings in Platoon.
I just watched this scene 2 nights ago,
Yeah,
and it is gorgeous. This is Samuel Barber, right? That does the Adagio for strings. It is perfectly used. here.
Yeah.
I mean it's gorgeous. Great. pick.
it's Charlie Sheen is walking through this village that they're pillaging and raping and all sorts of stuff, and he's just looking at it, going, "I'm powerless to prevent anything that's going on here." And the music is perfect for that.
Mhm.
And it's one of my favorite classical pieces. Basically introduced to me through that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a piece that you can listen to very, very similar to that Max Richter piece we've been talking about lately, The Nature of Daylight, that you can listen to it on its own and be moved.
Oh yeah.
Like it's hard for music to do that, I think, but it's just so powerful.
Mhm.
Anyway, I chose the scene in 7 when they're in the library.
Yeah.
And the security guards are like, "We have class," and they turn on this classical music. I had to look up what it was, but I've always loved that scene
Yeah.
and how that music sort of, I don't know, it's kind of like dichotomy against what he's sort of researching because the music is kind of anyway. But it's called Air, and it's from Suite Number 3 in D major by Johann Sebastian Bach.
Yes, it's gorgeous and it suits it perfectly.
Yeah. Anyway, do you have one that you wanted to throw out?
What's opera doc? Bugs Bunny. I know it's not a movie. But that's about as close as I can
Is this
get.
the Leopold thing
Yeah,
where he's
yeah,
holding the
yeah,
thing
yeah.
and his glove stays up there? That's good stuff. I don't want to follow that.
Yeah, I should have turned to you instead of him. Sorry.
My second favorite, probably. I mean, you've got different categories. If you wanted to include George Gershwin in classical music, because it was almost pop symphonic, but his use of Woody Allen's use in Manhattan of Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue is fantastic.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go straight classical, even in the classical period, the beginning of Amadeus, the Symphony Number 25, where it just boom. And then you've got all the different themes. There's several different themes that happen. You've got Salieri being dragged through the thing and everything. And then you've got the ballroom dance and everything. And it starts the little skip beat and everything. It's gorgeous. It's fantastic. The little bits of the Requiem that's played at the end is great. But that opening scene of the Symphony Number 25.
Ah.
Now, I was never really super into Mozart. It's weirdly enough, like that was all. That's too mainstream for me. That's the Justin Timberlake of classical music, you know. But man, the more that you dive into the stuff, especially like mid-career of Mozart, because he died so young and he started so early, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. Anyway.
Mozart's too mainstream.
Oh
You
my
must
God,
have been a
I'm
really
such
annoying kid.
I'm such a opposite when it comes to classical music. Don't get me started on. We reorganized the whole Barnes and Noble music section one summer. Greetings from Cape Town, South Africa. Huge
Wow.
fan. I know. Huge fan of the Sins video. Thanks
You guys
so
have
much.
water?
Huh?
Wasn't Cape Town the one that had a water crisis? And then like 3 weeks before they were going to run out of water, like somebody gave them some water, but they're still going to run out?
Did Elon Musk do that again?
Probably. Go check on the show notes. I'm pretty sure Cape Town had a massive water shortage.
Do you
But
have
anyway,
water?
sorry.
So this person just watched the Hitman's Bodyguard on the way on a long flight and found it was good, but there was one particular scene in there that really elevated it. And the question is, what otherwise forgettable movie have you seen where one amazing thing, either a scene or a character, really stood out and therefore elevated that movie for you?
I may have
Good question.
already said this answer for some other question or maybe a similar question, but in Southland Tales, when Justin Timberlake suddenly starts singing The Killers, All These Things That I've Done, he's lip syncing it, obviously, but he's just talked to somebody at a counter or whatever, well, like a drug dealer or something, and it's right after this. He's in a white T-shirt with like blood, like all over his, and he's got dog tags, and he keeps saying, "I got soul, but I'm not a soldier," holding up the dog tags and everything. But it's just the camera is roving around as he's singing straight to it, and there's all these these women dancers in like white, suits or nurse suits or something dancing around him. They're all like lined up on a skee ball thing. They're at an arcade or something like that. It comes out of nowhere.
Yes.
And I found that scene like unforgettable in a movie that just
That's a
isn't
movie that
good.
is the definition of forgettable.
Yeah.
Except for The Rock calling.
The Rock calling
thing.
Biling that would affect the something of the space time or whatever. And you dumb bitch, and then kisses her. But yeah, that scene is that's one of those scenes that makes you try to, when you go back, you're like, did I miss the brilliance of this movie? Because that's one of those just out of nowhere things that's like, oh, I loved that. Does it make any connection to the rest of the movie? Not really.
It doesn't, right?
It's just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it doesn't, I wouldn't say it elevates it, but it certainly makes you reconsider it.
It's the only thing worth watching from that movie, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
I completely blanked on what I answered. I just tried 3 different preps notes. I can't find wherever I answered this. But I'll just say off the top of my head, and it certainly doesn't elevate anything, but that J.K. Simmons time-traveling robots line in Terminator Genesis is one of the funniest lines of the last 4 or 5 years of all movies. And it says something that in a movie I had already decided I hated. He gave me a belly laugh in the middle of that movie. That means something. I don't know what it means, but it means I quote that every week.
Yeah.
And every time my wife is like, "What's that from?" And I was like, "A movie you never need to watch."
What's great about it is that the Terminator series finally has a character, and unfortunately it shows up in Terminator Genesis, but it finally has a character who knows the story, who wasn't involved with the story, and has probably been trying to tell people for years what they're doing. And he's already he's at a point in his life where he's been doing this for 30 some odd years, and he's like, goddamn time traveling robots always covering up their goddamn tracks. So that's what comes off so great about it.
Scott, what do you think?
I didn't get time to prepare for this, but something that came to mind is, not that it's a bad movie, but it was kind of a forgettable movie for me, was Hail Caesar.
Oh, yeah.
And Channing Tatum's dance routine.
Yeah.
That just knocked my socks off. You know?
Yeah.
Like, I'd go gay for that. I
Yeah,
mean, that
yeah.
was really good.
For sure.
Which is funny given this the song's content. What is it? Just one of with the guys, just one of the guys, or something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Because they're about to go off to sea, and they're just
Yeah.
kind of like, it's going to be just us guys, just
Yeah,
a bunch of
Sailor
dancing
outfits
seamen.
and everything. Yeah.
Bunch of dancing seamen. You're not alone because I think a lot of people have forgotten that movie. I actually really like it. Yeah, but you kind of were.
It didn't make an impact on me. It wasn't
No.
bad, but I do remember that scene.
That scene and the one with Ralph Fiennes.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
yes.
know,
What did it were so simple?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that was great. But other than that, I mean, that was both of those were in the trailer, and nothing added to it after.
Yeah.
Yeah. So The Other Guys is a really funny movie. It's a really good movie. It is an Adam McKay, Will Ferrell joint, but it's not to the level of Anchorman or Talladega Nights or anything like that. But it's really funny. It's totally overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
But it is kind of easy to forget, I guess, for a lot of people. But if you watch this movie, you're never going to forget the bar scene, which apparently Adam McKay, I was reading a little bit about this, like had a special invention that was just used to do these like still frames of a progression through a bar using the same characters in different positions. So what happens is Marky Mark talks to Will Ferrell and he says, "Man, we got to go do some serious drinking tonight." And I'm Mark Wahlberg kind of, "We got to do some serious drinking tonight." And he's like, "What do you mean? Serious drinking?" And so they show them, the first shot is them like getting a beer at the bar. And the second one is of them doing shots. And then the next one is like them firing off their guns and like doing another shot. And the next one is like Marky Mark setting something on fire and Will Ferrell biting a priest's arm.
Yeah.
And then the last one is of Will Ferrell standing on the pool table peeing on everything.
Yeah.
And Mark Wahlberg holding the rest of the bar at gunpoint. And it's maybe 50 seconds or something like
Yeah.
that, and then they go back to normal, and they do the rest of the story.
See,
So great.
that's great, but the one scene in that movie I always go back to is Aim for the Bushes.
Yeah, that's a great one too.
And they're on The Rock and Samuel Jackson are on top of a building. And they're on a really high building that there's no way anybody can survive this jump. And you just see them jump, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I guess they'll survive this or whatever. They just crash into the sidewalk.
Oh, it's so gross.
They are now dead.
Yeah. I believe that was a good episode.
It was.
That right there was an episode.
It
there.
sure was. Thank you, Scott.
No,
Thank
my
you so
pleasure.
much for coming by and
Thanks,
telling your
guys.
story and everything, because I think that's a really interesting one. We don't hear this enough, I don't think. So, anyway, keep going to Sincast presented by Cinemasins on Facebook. Keep going to Twitter or SoundCloud. There's a lot of places that you can reach us. And yes,
Where can we find you, Scott?
Do you want to be
Franklin,
found?
Tennessee. No. Yeah, we've got a Facebook page. The Animal Crackers has a Facebook page, a Twitter account, Instagram, and the YouTube channel.
Awesome.
yeah. And if you're in China somehow,
Go see the movie.
It comes out in
That's
July
right.
27th.
Actually,
27.
I believe there is a listener in China. And you know what? If you go see this movie and give us a first-person perspective, I'll reimburse you for your movie ticket.
There you go.
Ooh.
There you go.
Through PayPal, we will take a certain percentage. And anyway,
But that'll do it for this week. It's Chris Atkinson, Jeremy Scott, Barrett Shear, and Scott Christian Savo. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
One of the biggest movies we haven't done of this millennium. It came out in 2005, but it made like $200 and something million. And even though I didn't like the movie too much, I knew a lot of people did.
interesting.
So I knew.
Is it divisive? Is it? There are people that like it.
Yeah, there are people who like it.
Those people are wrong.
Why am I blanking on this?
Boy, I wish I knew, man.
Yeah, a review.
All right, this is going to get edited out.
Yeah,
Somebody told me, Joy, cut all this.
1995, baby.
Represent.
That's right.
Yeah, they're going to be the class of 2021.
It sounds so.
Doesn't it sound like
That's absurd.
It doesn't sound like they should be like, like the diploma should be like floating to them, like
Yeah, it does. It does. Like if you told me the year 2021 back in 1995, I wouldn't think that it would be somewhat the same, Like you always think that's such a futuristic. Like the other day, somebody said something about a contract running through 2028 or whatever, and I was like, man, that sounds like a ridiculously far away future thing, but it's going to be the same. I mean, there's going to be some new gadgets here and there, but it's going to be basically the same life.
Yeah.